Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mang. Welcome back to Solo Role Manging. Last time, we finished up a sort of mini campaign using Tales of Argosa and playing In the Shadow of Tower Silveraxe. It was a fairly entertaining little hex crawl through this sort of mountainous region with a tower in the middle, and undead were kind of spilling out of there because of this evil brigand that sacrificed all his men to turn him into undead. And we ended up being victorious, my three characters. And it wasn't overly difficult or anything like that, but we had some fun times, I think. If you watched it, I hope you enjoyed it. And I said at the end of that I probably was thinking about looking at the updated version of Heroes of Adventure. And we were going to take a look at that. I looked over it briefly, just kind of in anticipation, and I do think it looks kind of interesting, and I think it could be a fun game to sort of DM, like a homebrew campaign or something like that. But it didn't seem... It's sort of OSR adjacent as a game. Technically, I think you can convert it. I think you can convert like an OSR module to Heroes of Adventure. And some people have done that and are doing that, but it's not it's not like Shadow Dark or something like that. Like, it's not just, yep, use those stat blocks and go. It sort of has its own mechanics for a lot of things and changes a lot of verbiage and so on and so forth. And so I was looking over and I was like, yeah, this would be pretty cool for just like I would love, I suppose, if someone else DM'd for me and it did like a homebrew campaign and stuff like that, a sandbox campaign, and it was running Heroes of Adventure. Like, it looks really cool for that. But for solo play these days, I tend to just like going through modules, rather than coming up with my own sandbox stuff. And I think it's just because it's a lot easier for my brain. Like, I don't have to think of nearly as much stuff when just going through a module. I get to kind of more just play rather than being on the DM side of stuff. I know we do a lot of stuff, and I always say when all sorts of stuff comes up, like, well, if I were DMing this or blah, blah, blah. But that's the thing, I can say if I were DMing this. Whereas I feel if I run just a sandbox homebrew solo campaign, I am DMing it, and I'm playing it. And it's just like, it's more work. I mean, to each their own, I suppose. But I tend to like just running modules, whether they're old school or TCC stuff or even modern things. So an actual like OSR game like Shadow Dark or Tales of Argosa it's a lot easier. So I don't know, maybe we'll look at Heroes of Adventure again someday, but for now I'm happy with Tales of Argosa. So that's what we're going to be playing again. And I was bouncing around, I was thinking about what sort of stuff I wanted to play, what kind of modules I wanted to run. If I wanted to just do like maybe just a handful of random DCC modules or something like that, where I didn't do a hex crawl and I just bounced from dungeon to dungeon. I even thought about maybe doing something else with like a D&D 5th edition campaign, or like a Pathfinder adventure path or something like that, like Rise of the Rune Lords or something. I mean, maybe that would be kind of interesting to try. We might do that someday. But I ended up settling on this thing, the Lost City of, and I feel like most people are probably going to pronounce this Barakus, but that's B.A. Barakus, man. I just can't pronounce it that way. So I don't know if that's the intention. I apologize to the designers if that's how it's supposed to be pronounced. I'm not going to pronounce it that way, because I'm not running a game called The Lost City of B.A. Barakus. So I'm going to call it The Lost City of Barakus, which sounds a little exotic. So The Lost City of Barakus. This is from Frog God Games, who I think are mostly known for the big mega dungeon called Rapan Athuk, which is a very big, it's like 660 page mega dungeon This one is not nearly as big. It's 145 pages. Designed to take characters from 2nd level to 6th level or higher. So this isn't... I mean, it's sort of a mega dungeon, right? It does have 5 levels, so it's mostly about the dungeon. But you can see the first 74 pages of this, which is about half, is about this city called Endhome, and there are various adventures in Endhome and the area around there. So it's not entirely a mega dungeon. It's like sort of a little bit of a hex crawl, but there happens to be one of the locations is a bit of a mega dungeon, or like a Caverns of Thracia level dungeon. I have not read this. As usual, I don't really read modules in my spare time or anything. I just grab them, I buy them, and I'm like, yeah, this is recommended. People like this. Sounds cool. I'll grab it. So I have not really read this. We're going to give it a shot. We're going to start, though, because it's 2nd level to 6th level. I do think you could start this with level 1 Tales of Argosa characters. However, I'm going to run 2 characters this time instead of 3. So we're going to step it down a little more. So, you know, I think originally we may have done 4 characters, and then I went 3, and now we're going to go 2. Maybe someday we'll try 1, but... Well, I actually did do 2 when I did Lost Mines of Phandelver and Below. But that was a bit more... that was pretty freeform, and we actually lost multiple parties when I did that, so I don't know, we'll see. But I think you could start, especially if you're going to play with like a party of 4 or something like that, if you're running this. I think you could do level 1 Tales of Argosa. But it says for 1st level characters, as a prelude to this adventure, they recommend some other Frog God Games products. Grimsgate, MCMLXXV, which is a Roman number that I don't know, or Hall of Bones. Well, I actually... I bought Grimsgate. So we're going to run Grimsgate as our level 1. I think it's a little pricey. Maybe. It's hard to say. It's 26 pages and it was $11. So, you know, it's hard to say. I mean, how do you put a price on art? I suppose. I've, you know, it's tough because there was like a bundle or something of like DCC modules, and I got like 50 DCC modules for like, I don't even remember what it was. It was cheap. It was pretty darn cheap. So it is what it is. Hopefully it's fun. I have not, again, I just bought this. I don't even know what it's really about. Usually we don't read the GM section. We stick to being a player, so we don't actually know what's happening, but this image is pretty solid. But before we get into it, we are going to make characters, because I don't want to have knowledge of the module influence any decisions I might make for care gen. So let's get into it, creating a character. We first need to determine a race, so I can kind of decide on a name. That's going to be a human. Let's go with, you know, I usually like a good gender representation, so we'll do 1 male and 1 female character. So this will be our male, and he is going to be named Xander. Not super exotic or anything. He is going to be human. We are starting at level 1 for this. We're not doing a funnel adventure. He's going to have 2 rerolls. And we are going to roll attributes. Last time, I think we did the Tales of Argosa method, which is pretty good. It's pretty good, I guess, if you don't have a class in mind. I think Tales of Argosa method is better that way, because it's basically just full random. and then maybe you can bump up some stats, and then you can swap a couple stats. If we want to do the axe method of where you pick one stat and you pick 5d6 for that stat and drop the lowest two, then we kind of have to have a class in mind of what we want our highest stat to be. I don't know if I have any classes in mind, so I guess I probably am leaning still towards the Tales of Argosa method. I don't know if I'd ever like let players pick between the two, but honestly I might. I don't know numerically. That might be a good question for ChatGPT. It's actually a really good question for ChatGPT, so hold on. Let's say I have two methods of generating attributes. In the first one, you pick one attribute and roll 5d6, dropping the lowest two. Then you pick two more attributes and roll 4d6, dropping the lowest. For the rest, you roll 3d6. For the second method, you roll 3d6 down the line, but if you don't have a score of at least 15 in one, you can bump a score up to 15. If you also then don't... Well, I guess it would be... I think they were... You do 13 first. If you also then don't have a score of at least 15, you can bump one up to 15. You can... Well, the swapping is irrelevant. What are the average sums of both methods, assuming there's 6 attributes? Now, let's do it per Tales of Argosa. So assuming there's 7 different attributes. It's the tricky thing of bumping up scores. And that's why it's one of those questions that I don't know how to do the math on, and I don't think I could really ever Google to figure that out. So I'm hoping the math is not too much trouble, especially because I can't really fact check it. Because I'm dumb. So it's just blind trust in this dumb computer program. Hoping that I explained it properly and it can do the math. And I think it's probably going to get it wrong because of that bumping up the scores. Yeah, that's true. That's the other thing it's kind of thinking about. Yes, you'd likely bump the lowest score possible. Okay, so it's going to assume the lowest score is bumped up. I specifically, I should have mentioned the swap then, because it's then very likely that you're going to... It's doing a lot of thinking about this. Way too much thinking, really. I'm burning multiple trees here, just for my silly RPG. This is the most I've ever seen ChatGPT think about something. Granted, I'm not a heavy user of ChatGPT. I very rarely use it. Most of the time I use it, it's on camera here, and we don't do it too often. 2 minutes and 24 seconds. Okay. So according to this, method 1, which is the axe method, is going to average out to 79.9 across 7 stats. The Tales of Argosa method says 76, under a reasonable assumption about how you bump up the 2 stats. I don't really question too much the axe method, so we'll say 79 is about right. See, I don't think it did it right. So let's... And I think that's the biggest factor. And to be fair, players don't always do that, even though to me that always seems the smartest thing to do. But I suppose it's not always the smartest thing, because you can only swap two sets of numbers. You can only swap once. And so if you want 2 stats to be reasonably high, I could see times where you might not necessarily bump your absolute worst stat, because it won't work out perfectly to have like 2 good stats that way. Which means then, in that case, since it did like the absolute dumbest way to bump up your stats, I think the Tales of Argosa method kind of is likely to blow the axe method out of the water for averages. Also, for reliability is the other thing. The axe method does... There's decent chance, and we've done it, and we've had it, where you just still have a fairly middling stat line. Axe does allow you, though, which I guess I should have mentioned, oh, interesting. So that didn't bump it up as much as I thought. They're actually damn close according to this math. Like, really damn close. Closer than I would have thought. And I didn't even mention to it that Axe does allow you to bump up if you get stat screwed. Because I think if you roll the 5d6 and you don't get a 13, you can bump it up to a 13. Yeah. And then for the 4d6, if you get less than 9, you can bump it up to 9. So there is a bit of a safety net for that, which means you will never have your prime stat less than 13. That's still not quite as good as Tales of Argosa. Well, you're likely to never have your prime stat less than 15. But, yeah. Alright, well, then they're pretty darn close. I'd probably, because of that safety net and the swap, I'd probably give the edge to Tales of Argosa for being a slightly more generous method. But they're pretty close, which means, yeah, I guess I'd be comfortable then giving the option to players. I think what it means then is with Axe, I don't have real much math to back this up, but I would say you have a higher chance with Axe of having like a 16 or higher in your prime stat. Because there's no... You're with Tales of Argosa, you're at the mercy of a 3d6 to get a 16 or higher. Whereas here you have a 5d6 drop the lowest 2. Which, so what are the odds of rolling a 16 or higher with 5d6 dropping the lowest 2 numbers? 23%. compared to 3d6, which I probably could have Googled that. That bell curve image is probably very easy. 4.6% chance. Jeez. Yeah, so you have almost a 20% higher chance. Okay. Then yeah, I'd probably say I would give the option to players. One is a bit more of a safety net for like having generally good stats. Like, you're gonna have a 15 in something, you're gonna have a 13 in something, and you can pick what those generally are for the most part. I mean, not necessarily exactly, you only can swap once, but yeah. Whereas if you want to go for potentially a slightly riskier thing where you might end up with the highest stat of 13, but you have better odds of getting a 16 or higher in your primary stat, Axe is the way to go. But again, you can't swap, so you kind of have to have it in mind. But I think most of the time people do have their stats in mind, or their class in mind of what they want to play, but not all the time. Okay, well, I guess we should have a discussion then. We have two characters, assuming I mean, either way, we have some flexibility. We have some control over what kind of class we're going to be playing. So, what is the best pairing of two classes? It's tricky without, multi-classing. At level 3, we can get the unique feature like we did last time. So, anybody could pick up some arcane spellcasting. Anyone could pick up some divine spellcasting, so on and so forth. I think fighter cleric is probably not terrible. I think cleric magic user might not be terrible. Go all in on magic. Clerics are pretty solid combatants. They can use medium armor, shields, and bludgeoning weapons, and they have, divine magic, which is pretty handy. Magic users also not that terrible. They can use light armor and one-handed weapons, and magic is pretty darn useful. Yeah. Fighters have the best attack bonus scaling. Or barbarians have really good attack, but barbarians are going to be way worse on AC without a good dex score. Bard's not bad, but it's not super great either. Basically, we're going to want some combat-based class that's going to have +1 attack bonus at level 1, I would say, is sort of where we're at. Rangers do have an attack bonus at level 1. They don't have quite as good of growth as fighters or barbarians, but yeah, they do start all right. They can wear medium armor, but no shields. They do get a beast companion, and then there's like my alternative where if you don't want the beast companion. But a beast companion's not a terrible option. Like, the Wolf Companion has 11 plus your Perception mod. It starts with, say... What is that going to be? 6 HP. 1d8 bite attack. +1 to attack rolls. It also gets a +1 to attack when you outnumber foe. That's an extra +1 attacks, because you already normally get a +1 if you outnumber. Tends to be either, a bow user or a dual wielder. I could see maybe taking a ranger. We haven't, I think maybe we had one once. As far as my custom classes, the War Dancer, or the Blade Dancer is another solid option. Because I think I gave the Blade Dancer pretty solid. And I did call it the War Dancer. Pretty solid attack bonus. And specifically, the War Dancer gets to use Dex for melee and damage rolls. For attack rolls and damage rolls. Which, very specifically, is removed from Argosa. Because Dex tends to be the best stat then. You get to use it for attacking, and you get to use it for your AC bonus. But they are limited to light armor without a unique feature. They don't have quite as good health progression as a fighter, although that's somewhat negligible. And you also can't use Dex for ranged weapons. That's still perception. Yeah, I think I gave them ranger progression rather than fighter progression. So this would be another option. Yeah, depends on the Dex mod. I think a +2 Dex mod is okay, but I'd probably still rather have medium armor. I don't know. I'm not opposed to the War Dancer. But, yeah, fighter is good for a reason. My only issue really with the fighter is I don't love the adaptable combat styles. I tend to do the same thing like every time. I tend to just... Protector is my normal style. They get +2 AC from shields, and then they're going to pick up Expert Guard in case they fumble, and they're going to pick up Opportunist if they kill something. And then if I also use a spear, they're going to pick up Long Reach. They can make a free attack when they engage a foe. I don't have to go that way. We could do a two-handed fighter at this time. Or we could do a dual-wielding fighter this time. But it's also sort of a tough argument to go for a dual-wielder fighter when I could go for the War Dancer instead. So... for the other class, we could go Scion, but I really... Yeah, we haven't done a Scion yet. Actually, I think monks might get Dex to weapons. Yes, you may apply your Dex mod to your melee attack and damage rolls rather than strength. Okay, good. I did not just pull that out of my ass and break the game. The monk gets that. They also get to make an extra attack each turn with punch, kick, or headbutt as if two-weapon fighting, but this extra attack does not suffer disadvantage. It's actually pretty good, man. They get that at level 1. Oh God, we're just wasting time here. We're like half an hour. I haven't even really made anything yet. I can't decide, so fuck it. We're gonna go Tales of Argosa stats, and we're just gonna see what we get. So 3d6 down the line. 11, 14, 15, 6, 11, 8, 14. Okay, well, we're definitely not bumping anything up. We got 11, 14, 15, 6, 11, 8, 14. All right. Nothing is going to be at a +2. Decent charisma, decent dexterity. A bard might be viable. I'm hesitant to take it just because I don't think we'll be talking much. Their main thing is Inspire Greatness. So they start with one use of this ability per level. They obviously can get it back from short rest and stuff. So they may use this on allies to apply a bonus equal to your charisma modifier on any single roll, excluding trauma rolls. You may use this ability after seeing the result of the roll. You can also use it to give them a second luck save to end an adverse magical effect. And if successful, the PC's luck score is reduced by 2 points instead of 1. Jesus. Also, if an ally is reduced to 0 HP, that ally gains an immediate melee or ranged attack against their opponent. They also get advantage when using Gather Information, when performing Entertain or Inspire, and when using Persuasion or Deception. Choose one. They get not great attack progression. They can use all weapons, though. Medium armor, light armor, shields. But to make Inspire Greatness worth it, you'd really want to have that as your 15, which means I'd have to swap that, and then that's really not looking in great. So, I mean, chances are we're probably just going to swap Charisma for something else. I could... But that's the problem. The only 15 we got is in Con, which isn't really useful to much with the way that our stats are laid out. So we're probably going to be swapping the 15 to something. But I hate to sacrifice Con too much. Probably our best bet then is swapping Con with Int and making him our wizard. The only issue with that is that his willpower sucks as well. So he's going to have a real tough time getting spells back. So I could swap Con to Strength. I could swap Con to Will and make him our priest, our cultist. Alright, I suppose that's the most sensible. He'll just mostly be good at spellcasting. I mean, 11 strength is not terrible, I guess. Alright, so this is going to be 8. This is going to be 15. So it'll be a little sickly, but he'll be likable. So we'll at least have something for Con. He's not very bright, though. He's got the spirit, that's all. Yeesh, those are a little rough. Definitely not a Dalnir. That's for damn sure. Yeah, okay. So then for class, he's going to be a cultist. He's going to have sacred lore. So at least he doesn't have to use int for divine lore and stuff. So that means he's at 10 hit points. Brilliant. He's got 11 luck. And we are going to roll his background. Yeah. 2, 3. He was a street preacher. +1 charisma. Jesus. Wait a minute, Mikey. Was that rolled before or after I swapped? That's rolled before I generate attributes. That changes things. That changes things a bit. Hold on, before I commit to that then. I can then swap charisma and strength. And he could be a pretty solid fighter then. I'm gonna do that. That made him quite a bit more viable, I think. He's still not gonna be great at recovery, so yeah, it is what it is. He's not very bright, but he's got much better hit points, up to 17. No, it'll be 18 now. Sorry. Yeah, so he's got 18 hit points. He's got a +2 mod for his attacks and damage. He gets a +1 to his AC. Not bad, not bad, not bad, not bad. Okay, so we gotta roll his template now. Oh, right, yeah, so Street Preacher. He starts with Divine Lore and a Holy Symbol. So he might, depending on what the other character is we get, he might end up multi-classing over to Cultist. But we will give him Divine Lore. Rolling his template. He got a 7. Not many options there. He can be a Corsair, Ravager, or a Thug. Corsair is going to be dual weapons and ranged. Ravager, Charger, and two-hander. Thug is brutal and unarmed. I think Ravager is generally what I go with, because I think Charger and two-handed is not a bad way to go. Yeah, all right. We'll go with that. So he gets Deadly Strikes, Charger, two-hander. Okay. So that's going to bump up his crit range, blah, blah, blah. He gets various goodies. He's going to get a long bearded axe, which I think is just a battle axe. Yeah, that would make sense. The battle axe. So, long bearded axe. 1d6/1d8. Depending on if you're two-handed or not. He, of course, is two-handing it. Yada, 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 yada. Melee, steel, one or two-handed, 1d8 damage is correct. Blade trauma on a battle axe, I think, is 1d8 +4. That's correct. I guess I could link the... Fuck. You really won't let me, like, view this thing? Or can it... No. I think I have to... Yeah, if I copy that. Alright. So he's got that. He also gets a Francisca. I don't know why that reset. Which is a hand axe. Same shit Rethy started with. Well, we'll call it what it is. I think actually we can just copy over... a light and... Yes. Almost certainly is going to be throwing it. Oh no, it's under... No, they don't have it as a thing? That's weird. Well, javelins are 1d10 +2 missile trauma, so I guess we'll copy that. Okay. What else you got? Chainmail. Classic. Chainmail is +4 AC. Thank you very much. So he's sitting on a 15 AC. It's not terrible at level 1 for a two-handed fighter, I think. So I'll take it to the bank. And we need to give him 4 dummy armor. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and set that. Okay. Good. The clothing, I don't really care about. We don't keep track of that. And he starts with a week of iron rations. But it's just rations. We're not picky. So he starts with 7 of those for 1 week. Okay. That's it for him. His background is the... Oh, I guess he also starts with the holy symbol, which we'll put in his battle gear. You know, it's part of who he is. Probably also... I don't know if I really want to take that up a slot, so I'll be nice about that. It's just kind of it's like a little cross necklace or something he's got on his neck, you know, like, I don't know. I don't really picture it as like a giant crucifix he carries around. I don't know. Yeah, okay. Are we missing any steps? Attributes, class, reroll, initiative, hit point, class. Oh yeah, skills. Duh. Leadership, athletics, acrobatics, detection, wilderness lore. Acrobatics, athletics, wilderness lore, leadership, detection. It's a solid set. And now Xander is finished. I need a good male human fighter man. You are our Xander. I feel like I've used this before for a barbarian. He is a little bit barbaric. Okay. This guy. There you go. There's our Xander. Alright, he's done. Second character. We're going to roll for race. Ooh. Exotic. Halfling or half scorn? Well, last time we did a halfling, and yeah, it was very good. We're gonna do a half scorn, which is a half orc. They call him scorn in this game. It's a fucking half orc. So we have a female half orc. We're gonna go. That's a little elvish. I don't know. I need a name generator here. Half orc. Female. Caesura. I like it. Okay. Half scorn. You got it. So what are the traits of a half scorn? Half orc. They get advantage on strength-related tests, excluding melee attack damage rolls, and to resist disease and parasites. But they have a disadvantage on all intelligence-related checks, excluding spellcasting and initiative checks. It doesn't come up that often, but yeah, depending on who they are, it could come up. They get a +2 bonus on death saves. GM might require a will check to resist showing dominance or fearlessness in the face of an overt threat or challenge. I will say all the demi-human races have something like that. I'm not a good enough DM when I actually do DM to remember that shit and be like, oh, that would apply to that halfling. To me, it would really just be like, if the player wants to roleplay that and get into that aspect and reminds me, sure, I'll make you roll, you know, sure. But I struggle to remember. So, yeah, it's going to be funny that our half-orc is almost certainly not going to be a fighter. We might, I guess we could have 2 fighters. They probably would be pretty solid. But, yeah, we're really hoping for some sort of spellcaster. It might end up being a cultist due to having a disadvantage on all int stuff. But we'll see what we get. All right, 3d6 down the line once again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I see a 4 will. And also, we're not going to be bumping anything up. 13, 11, 11, 16 int, 15 perception, 4 will, 10 charisma. Fuck. I hate to say it. Well, no, I guess if we really want to play into it, swapping int and will would give us a pretty good cultist. A very dumb, brutish cultist that just has a hell of a lot of faith. Alternatively, swapping int and will would allow us to... No, I just said that. Swapping perception and will would be a really, like, fucking four-eyed, bumbling, can't see anything except for the book in front of their nose, but a very solid magic user. I don't want to play the first half orc we're going to play as, like, a complete idiot. So we're going to swap perception and will. Well, first let's roll background before we do any swapping. 1, 6. That is a cook, +1 charisma. I'm going to start with general lore as a skill and a spice jar. Yeah, cook works. We're very smart. We got a lot of spirit, and we just can't see almost anything. Group perception checks are going to be rough. We don't have much of a backup here. With 2 characters, basically we either both have to succeed or one of them has to get a great success. So yeah, group perception checks might be tricky. I suppose with 2 you could change it so you never do group checks. You only do, like, everybody just rolls perception individually. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But we're gonna go 15 will, 4 perception. It's gonna get spicy. And I think we're gonna go magic user. Yes, her int is going to be burdened by her own genetics. So anytime she wants to roll, like, arcane lore or general lore or something, she is going to be rolling with disadvantage. It's not that big of a deal when you have that good of an intelligence. Like, you'll still succeed a lot of the time, but yeah. Some would argue that this is just a little pigeonholing and a little, I don't know, racist. Like, they're just all genetically stupid. I mean, does that seem right to you? It seems a little painful. It is what it is. I mean, he made the game. I'm going to abide by it. Most OSR games don't really differentiate demi-humans like that, unless they're like a whole different class. Shadow Dark does have a half-orc ancestry, but all of their stuff is just pure positive. Nobody has a downside. They just get +1 to bonus attack damage rolls with and damage rolls with melee weapons. But all of these are pretty minor and have no drawbacks, whereas Tales of Argosa obviously goes a little further in. Oh, humans also get an extra +1 to an attribute of your choice up to 16. Ooh, Xander, you're going to get even better. All right, yeah. So she is very much an extreme oddity amongst her race, I suppose, in that she pursues intellectual activities and actually goes into magic and has, learned magic. Let's roll our template. 11. Alright, so she can be a classicist, an elementalist, an occultist, necromancer, or a hedge wizard. Classicist is pretty nice, gives us mage missile and illumination straight out the gate. I don't think illumination is as important because I don't see Caesura using anything in two hands. She can't use shields. She could use a light crossbow or a sling, but I don't think her perception... No, her perception is terrible. She's not going to be ranged anything. So she's probably going to have a torch and a sword or something. Mage Missile, however, is an extremely good spell. And we may as well look at some of these spells, because this is a decently big decision. It might be a while before we get more spells. So Mage Missile has a 360-foot range, and it's a concentration spell. On the round the spell is cast, and on each round thereafter the caster maintains concentration, they can fire one Mage Missile at a target. Automatically hits for 1d4 damage. In combat, in a dungeon, I agree. It's not exceptional, right? There's no scaling to this. It's forever going to be one Mage Missile for 1d4 damage. But on a larger scale, outdoor, something like that, 360-foot range of auto hit, as long as you can see a target, is pretty obscene. You are basically like a fantasy sniper. You know, if there's a guy up on a watchtower, you can just pum, you know? And he's fucking dead. Maybe not in one shot. You know, you have a 25% chance of one-shotting him, but assuming it's a standard guy, a bandit or whatever, with 4 hit points. But yeah, at least 2 shots. And if he can suddenly react quick enough to completely get out of your view in one round, then he might survive. But otherwise, he's likely dead. I think it's pretty good. But if we're going to be doing a lot of dungeon stuff, yeah, it's not the best combat spell compared to, say, Fan of Flames. So the Elementalist actually gets the most choices because you get to pick kind of an element. So you can pick Fan of Flames and Blinding Flash for fire, Thunderclap and Weave Smoke for like air, Earth's Excrescence and Slingstone for earth, or Desiccate and Slickness for water. Now, Desiccate and Slickness, I would say, might be the best combo, because you already know what Slickness is. That's fucking grease, baby. So, creates a... It can target one or more objects, a 10 by 10 surface area floor, or a willing creature. A willing creature. You can grease him up, like Groundskeeper Willie. Lasts for half an hour. If it targets one or more objects, they become virtually impossible to grab or hold. If it's an area of floor, any creature starting this initiative or moving into it must make a paralysis saving throw. They can use acrobatics to get a +2 bonus to the saving throw. If not, they suffer a penalty of -4 if wearing light armor, 6 if wearing medium armor, 8 if wearing heavy armor. If they fail, they immediately fall prone. And I assume they have to remake that check if they try to stand up in the thing. If it's a willing creature, they cannot become grabbed, restrained, stuck, wrestled, or otherwise subject to any form of bondage. Nothing can get a grip on a recipient affected by Slickness. It's very fun. Desiccate is also really powerful. 60-foot range. Creates a 5-foot diameter sphere of dehydration centered on a target point. Each living creature in the area effect must make a blast saving throw, which is luck dex. If they fail, they become dehydrated and suffer 1d12 damage. On a level 1 spell, that's damn good. And if they succeed, they still take half of it, so which still might kill them. I think it's a pretty powerful spell. 5 feet diameter's not super big or anything. You might be able to catch 2 targets if they're next to each other, but that's about it. Earth excrescence, I think we've had before. That's not bad. It's an area of Earth 15 feet in diameter, bursts up. Blast saving throw for each creature. If they fail, they suffer 1d6 damage per caster level, so that will scale a little bit, up to 3d6. And they're knocked prone. If they succeed, they still suffer half the damage and retain footing. It's pretty nice for AoE at level 1, and like I said, it does scale a bit, so could be useful. Sling Stone is going to be like kind of a standard ranged attack. You can sling up to 1 object per level of experience. Can sling it at 1 target or distribute across several targets. You have to make a successful attack throw with each object. That means it's not really viable for us at all because we're going to be using Perception for a ranged attack. So, yeah, whatever. Thunderclap, Weave Smoke. Thunderclap's going to be fairly iffy because I think it's just a PB AoE around us. Oh no, it's not. It's a 90-foot range. So it's a ranged AoE. Can be heard as a low rumble up to 10 miles away. Each creature within 5 feet of the Thunderclap has to make Luck Dex. If they fail, they suffer 1d6 damage and are deafened. Half damage on success. Not nearly as good because it doesn't scale. And it's really loud. So it's really fucking loud. And then Weave Smoke is obviously going to generate quite a lot of smoke. Which has uses. I won't deny it has uses, but yeah. A lot of the times in dungeons, you're not going to weave a giant cloud of smoke. And then lastly is Fire, which is probably the second most viable. Fan of Flames. 40 feet long fan, 20 feet wide. Each creature of the caster's choice. So you can exclude your allies, which is really pretty nice. Luck Dex saving throw. If they fail, 1d8 damage. Otherwise, they take half. Yeah, I mean, 40 foot long, 20 foot wide is going to fill quite a few dungeons rooms. So, and the fact you can exclude a creature of your choice means you can basically target the whole pack of enemies and they all take 1d8 damage. Which is going to average out to 4.5, which is enough to kill most, like, 1-hit dice creatures. Not bad. And then we also have Blinding Flash, which is a 90-foot range. Each creature within 10 feet of the Blinding Flash must make Luck Dex throw. If they succeed, they're unaffected. If they fail, 1d6 damage, and they're blinded until the end of its next initiative. That's pretty good. Especially because in Tales of Argosa, blinded is a 66% flat miss chance before a roll. All of them are viable in their own way. But I don't think I can pass up Grease and a nice AoE spell of Desiccate. So we're going to go Water Element for this half-orc. Okay. So... where did we have classes? Magic user. And we get Sense Magic. And for backgrounds, do I still have that table up? No. Cook. Did I add Xander's background? No. He was a street preacher. Also, you get to increase 1 stat up to 16. Strength is not bad, but he's not going to get a +1 out of it. Dex will give him another AC, so it's likely the most viable. Will would also be nice for recovery rolls, but yeah, starting with 16 AC seems juicy to me. Okay. Right. So she's a magic user, blah, blah, blah. She's going to have 12 hit points, 20 crit range, blah, 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 11 luck. She's going to... Oh, yeah, also... What did you close that already? Do I just close stuff now? Spellcraft. Specifically, I have to state that this is tier 1. Also, she... Well, yeah, she starts with 2 spells, but only 1 use. Is that how I did it? Oh, yes. Yes. She starts with 2 spells because of her int mod, but she can only cast 1 thing, yeah, between short rests. That's correct. All right, so for spells, she gets Desiccate. I don't know if I spelled that right at all. I did not. Okay, it's a 60-foot range. Don't you always love these part 1s? Where we just spend like an hour making 2 fucking characters. I enjoy it, but that's me. "60-foot range, 5-foot diameter, sphere, luck, dex, save, or 1d12. Otherwise, half. Int, bar, instant, done, and slickness, baby." Now this one has just a fucking novel of text. I remember I did a one shot for some friends of Tales of Argosa mixed with Axe stuff, and there was a pre-gen I put out of the magic user, and I think I picked Desiccate and Slickness as the starting spells because I figured they're powerful, they're good, classic. But the text here, I think, just, like, terrifies people. I should have summarized it. I didn't need to put the whole text onto, like, the piece of paper. Nobody picked the magic user. Yeah, this is a lot of text. Jeez. I mean, it's always very thorough, you know? Like, there's never really any questions I have when I'm reading an Axe spell. I always know exactly what it does. No ambiguity. It is a thing of beauty. We're getting there. I just feel like I might look at this at some point just to see. So I kind of would like it to be readable. Jesus. Okay. The range is... Really? The range is touch on this. It is not a ranged spell. Interesting. That makes its combat potential a little trickier, but it does last for 30 minutes. 3 turns. Create grease on object 10 by 10 surface or willing creature. Yeah, I don't really need to know much more than that for the shortened version. Touch. Instant. I mean, it is made instantly, right? Alright, we got our spells. We got everything. Now it's just gear, of which not super amazing. We get our spell book, which probably should take up a slot, but I don't think I'm ever that anal about it with players. Oh no, I'm sorry, we're elementalists. So we get a wood panel spellbook, a gnarled oaken staff, Okay. Staff. Which I don't think is automatically... I think... Well, no, we use this for weapons, so... Should be 1 or 2 hands. Staff, yes, 1d4 or 1d6. Counts as a 2nd rank spell, jeez. Wouldn't have thought. Alright. He's got his staff. He also gets 5 darts. Yes, classic dartage. They are missile weapons out to 15 feet without penalty for 1d4 damage. Honestly, fuck it. He's never going to use these. Leave it at home. With a 4 perception at -3, we're never using that, so never mind. He gets various clothing. He gets quill and ink and 1 week ration and 60 gold. Does he not get parchment? It's interesting. None of them get parchment. Is that an oversight on my part? No, I mean, I'm sure I copied these from Axe, from these templates. They do not get parchment. It seems unfair, because I think I had some other template that had... The Dalnir started with quill and ink and parchment. And some templates I just took straight from here and pretty much copied them over and called it a day. But other ones I had to come up with on my own. So the cultist template must come with... yeah, he was a cultist. He was an undead slayer. No, he got that as a background. That's right. He got that from his level 0 for me. Yeah, okay. Okay. I wonder if there's a reason why they don't start with parchment. There's not even parchment in here. Journal, spellbook, treatise. Yeah, I suppose the quill and ink is for his spellbook. It's not. He doesn't have parchment just to write down. He has a whole spellbook to write stuff in. Okay, that's fair. So sure, quill and ink, and 1 week ration. Okay, he does not start with any armor, so his AC is 10. He'll want to pick up leather armor as soon as possible for 12 AC. All right. That's kind of it. He's not carrying much, is he? Yeah, he's not carrying much at all. We're going to have to pick up some adventuring gear. Xander did start with a little bit of gold too, I think. No, he didn't. All right, never mind. Okay. Then we need a half-orc portrait of some kind. I've got drow. I've got humans. I've got vampire for some reason. Dwarf. I've got no female half-orc. There's a male orc. Sexist. No female half-orc. This one's vaguely greenish. It's just the background, I guess. Okay, well, if we go to look at the Pathfinder bestiary, might be able to find an orc in there. That's a goblinoid. Hybrid? No, that's not it. Okay. I might have to go online. Alright, give me a second. We'll find one. She's got to be sort of, you know, a bit of a glint of intelligence in her eye instead of just some brutish bitch. Okay, it's not really... Oh my god. I might have Midjourney make something up because I don't like the look of any of these. I'm gonna be honest. No, I don't really want to go through the trouble of having Midjourney do it. That's not really much of a half orc. No, that's a guy. No. I mean, that's way too attractive for... It's just ridiculous. I suppose this is maybe the best bet. It looks a little too mean, though. It doesn't look like a player character. It looks like a monster. A lot of these are just sort of like deviant art tier. Alright, I'm happy with this. It's not deviant art, it's Art Station. Hold on, you'll get to see it in a second. We're getting there. Let's see. I don't have permission to upload files. That's something to tell me, huh? Why would you say that? No, I do not have permission to upload files. How can I not? What? Who does in this crazy world then? What? Okay, there we go. Alright, we got it. Okay, there she is. You know, not super pretty, but not ugly. There's a glimmer of intelligence there. There's some sort of magical shit floating around. It's definitively a half-orc. This is our party. Xander and Caesura. Alright. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be an uphill battle, to say the least. But she's got some good spells. He can do some good fucking smashing. He gets to roll advantage on all his damage rolls, so you know, it might work out. Level 3, you know, he'll pick up some cultist stuff. He'll be able to do some holy stuff. Yeah, it might work out. Are we done? Close. I don't think I added her... I didn't do her skills. We're almost starting. An hour and 15. Just about there. Do not worry. Arcane lore, of course. Apothecary. Watercraft. Detection. General lore. And then her thing from being a cook. Which is also general lore. Which means she gets to reroll something for a magic user. That would be detection. She already got that. That would be stealth. Oh. Okay. Somebody has stealth at least. Stealthy mages are always good. She also starts with a spice jar. I don't really think that'll come into play, but if I wanted to roleplay a little bit that she actually likes to cook food every night, not a bad idea considering my house rule where if you cook your meal out in the wilderness at night, you get 2 hit points instead of 1 for eating rations. So we could. She's got a lot of slots, so fuck it. Spice jar. No mechanics with that. It's just a spice jar, but role playing. I think that's it for everything. And bonus languages. Yeah, she does get 2 bonus languages. I have no idea. We could reserve the right to pick them, but I feel like I should pick them to roleplay. She speaks Common and Orcish. She's smart, so she reveres the elves a bit, so she'll pick Elvish. And she likes dragons, so we're going to pick Draconic. Smart people like dragons, because dragons are badass. That is it, outside of age. We could pick to be old, but no, these are young whippersnappers. Best of friends. Alright. Now we are, I'm pretty sure, ready to begin. I really don't think I'm missing anything. Okay. So let's move on to Grimsgate. After several days of traveling, you and your companion are at last approaching the small village of Grimsgate. The narrow road that leads for miles through this forest is overgrown with weeds, beginning to blend and disappear entirely back into the wilderness. Indeed, everything you've seen since the last real signs of civilization has had the same feeling of slow retreat and disintegration. More than once you passed by strange signs. Bones arranged in a circle around a human skull, a small red-stained wicker basket by the side of the road, an unmarked grave in the dappled shade of the trees. Finally, though, you see ahead of you the distinctive hill upon which the village of Grimsgate is built. At the top is a small cluster of buildings. You can just barely see the half-collapsed roof of the old Temple of Law that was once said to be the pride of the village. Even at this distance, the place looks run down. Although the village is not fortified, the hill is very steep, and only one path leads to the top. Do you head towards the village? And then there's always like some awkward looks around the table, and then someone says, yes. If you've ever played an RPG ever. Okay, so I skipped over this. Reasons that might bring characters to the village of Grimsgate. Otherwise, they're just in search of treasure and adventure. I like to have a little bit of reason beyond that, and most people, I think, do. So we've been charged by the priests of law in another area to discover what has become of the Elder Temple. Unless the party is made up primarily of hero types, there will likely need to be a financial reward involved if characters are successful. Or a nearby baron hires characters to see if a small group of adventurers can do a better job of discovering and rooting out the evil in the area that the already failed military approach using knights and men-at-arms. Or one of the characters is deeded one of the abandoned houses in Grimsgate, and the party is traveling to the village to see if it would serve as a good base of operations for an adventuring career. Alright. I think Xander is a bit of a holy man. He styles himself. He has a strong faith. I mean, he's not a cleric or anything, but he has a strong faith. So, you know, there was a job, I guess, handed around, talked about. He ended up in their laps to go and investigate what has become of the Elder Temple. I'm not quite sure what that is or what that means. Probably some part of this section explains what an Elder Temple is. Oh, okay. So that's just the name of the temple here. In the almost mythic past, a group of 3 paladins killed a manifestation of a demon named Vuad the Putrefactor. They burned the body and placed the ashes into a magically sealed jar made of green glass. Jar was given over to the priests of law at the Elder Temple and left under their protection. Okay. So it's just the name of the temple. It's, you know, This is for Swords and Wizardry, I think. I don't know that game. I think I bought that game. Somewhere in my big folder collection, somewhere. But I don't know. So I think I'd rather pick a deity of some kind. Axe has deities, right? The Crusader definitely has a name for the Aminar. Generally, I just use Forgotten Realms because it's what a couple of my players are familiar with. So if I mention a deity from there, like Palor or something, it's not too much of a question. I would like to start using Galarian and the Pathfinder deities, although there is a lot, and again, no one's really familiar with it except for me. Yeah, I guess I tend to just use Forgotten Realms. It's so just like generic fantasy if I don't want to think about it too much. And like I said, a couple people know what I'm talking about. Shadow Dark has their own set of sort of basic ones, really simple. But yeah, when in doubt, I default to Forgotten Realms. So what's a good lawful deity? I guess Palor is fine. Should we find out? Elm's God of Law. Tyr. Perfect. Alright, so it's a temple of the Elder Temple of Tyr. And we've been sent from some other larger town, some other temple to Tyr to go check out what has become of it. I don't know. They just haven't heard word from it in some time, I guess. It seems kind of like, I feel like some more questions would need to be asked. Like, has anybody heard from anybody in Grimsgate? Or I guess it must be a pretty small village. It's deep in the wooded wilderness. It's an outpost town on a seldom traveled trail right at the edge of nowhere. Nobody really expects the village to still be there in another 10 years. Okay, so I think we probably should be aware of those facts. So we're heading into the frontier land here. We've traveled for several days. The most notable thing about this place is this Elder Temple to Tyr. So that's the only people that kind of care, is other priests. Okay, so we are going to approach the village. We have no reason to suspect, I guess, that anything really is... Well, that's not really true, I guess. If we haven't heard from people in the temple, that's probably not good. So the whole village could be wiped out. Perhaps we shouldn't be walking on the road just up to the village. But yeah, okay, we'll approach cautiously. We won't be whistling a tune or something like that. But we're also not going to go off into the wilderness to try to get the lay of the land. We'll go down the road as normal with our eyes open. The village sits atop a steep hill with a single pathway leading around the hill's natural curve and up to a gatehouse that protects the buildings at the summit. 3 farmhouse-type buildings are along the path, but the rest of the village appears to be located behind the gatehouse, so that any attackers would have to take the gates before they could reach the regular building. Interesting. Okay, do they have an... Oh, yes, they do. Okay. So it's up on this hill. So you have to go up this trail. That makes it a lot worse. That means that if we get to the gatehouse and it's filled with undead or something, we're fucked. There's not many options there. But we can investigate these first few buildings. Check out the situation there. If we find undead there, okay, we gotta reevaluate. Because 2 is the gatehouse. Yes, okay. Assuming the players tell you the characters ask some questions in Grimsgate, the answers automatically yield the following 2 pieces of information about the area. Seems like things have been going downhill for years here in Grimsgate. Ever since the Barons lost a big patrol in the forest, they haven't sent anyone since. Seems like we lost a fur trapper or a farmer every month for a while, and now there aren't enough people to keep things going. An old temple is out there somewhere nearby. It's called the Elder Temple, because it was before we had a temple here in the village. Something bad happened there a long time ago. Okay, that information's pretty useful then. So this spoils it for me that the village is not overrun by undead, because we are going to find out this information from locals. And then there's a rumor table we might find out if we keep asking questions around town. All right, so we're going to go up cautiously to these farmhouses. 3 stone farmhouses built inside the pathway that leads up to the top of Grimsgate Hill appear to be abandoned. One of them has a wooden shutter that bangs open and closed in the wind. A cat sits in one of the dark windows, watching you as you pass by. Ooh, I do like cats. Yeah, Sazura is a big cat fan. So she's going to try to approach it. Maybe she'll hold out a little piece of her rations, a little piece of jerky or something. Yeah. Ordinarily, I might say that, well, I played with my sister for quite a while. She doesn't play anymore, but she played for quite a while. She always was attached to any animals that came, like anything. And if she was playing this, she would want to, like, tame that fucking cat. And so for me to just say, like, yeah, as soon as you approach, it runs away and hisses. It's like, so I'd probably let her, like, roll, at least, like, a wilderness lore to try to see if it'll accept her food and stuff. So I'm going to allow that. I don't really want to tame the cat and have it come with us or anything, but that's how I would roll it, so that's how we're going to roll it. Now, Sazura doesn't have wilderness lore. But I'm actually going to roll this with charisma, because we're trying to actually appeal to the animal. So this is just going to be a normal charisma roll. Great success! Excellent. All right. So not only... So if it's a success, I'd probably say it, like, snatches the food out of her hand and then just, like, jumps over to another windowsill or something and eats it. But this is actually going to kind of eat it out of her hand. Maybe it's just kind of lonely or something. And so she can actually pet it a little bit. And as I talk about this, my own cat just jumped up on my desk, jealous of the RPG cat. We may see this cat again, you never know. But like I said, we're not going to tame it, so she just kind of pets it a little bit, and we continue on. There's clearly nobody here. We could go inside and look around, but it's abandoned, so there's really not much in there. And we can see that through the windows. Not really a good sign when the village we're supposed to investigate, because we haven't heard word. The first 3 buildings are completely abandoned. So Xander is going to be walking up to the gatehouse with his hand on his hilt of his axe. A half-ruined gatehouse blocks the trail up to the hilltop. The gates have fallen off and have been pushed to the side to keep them from blocking the entrance. However, the rusting iron portcullis has been lowered, and a guard is standing atop the building, his crossbow leveled at you. Jesus. Alright, so, I mean, we have our hands in the air because he's got us dead to rights, so we don't want to make any sudden moves. Sazura will generally do most of the talking. Unless, I suppose, it's a situation where her race could be a detriment, which unfortunately is the case in some places. But out here in the... I suppose out here in the boonies, it might be a problem, I guess. So we'll have Xander do the talking, because it's a guard and he's the man. You know how guards think, those bastards. Alright, so Xander, holds up his hands and says, well, again, I don't like to roleplay, but basically introduces himself and Sazura and says we were sent here from the Temple of Tyr in insert town name here, in order to investigate what happened to the Elder Temple. And, we ask if all is well in Grimsgate. And I think this is where we probably hear these 2 bits of information, assuming the guard is friendly enough. So let's roll a charisma. He doesn't have persuasion or anything, so it's just going to be straight up charisma. We'll give him a +2 because he is a man of action, and you know, he's being cordial and everything. Okay, failure. It's not a terrible failure or anything. The guy doesn't mistrust us or anything. He's just not really in a talkative mood or anything. He doesn't want to sit here and chat. So he says basically that, you know, that's all fine and well. You're free to go in, but, you know, we will be keeping an eye on you just because you're strangers in our little village. Which is not necessarily the welcome we were hoping for, but it's better than getting a crossbow in the chest, a bolt in the chest. So we head into the village, and we are immediately greeted by the inn, the Silver Dagger Inn on our right, and a merchant on our left, the Emporium, the Hilltop Emporium. We will be wanting to pay a visit there, because Cesura has quite a bit of cash to burn. Unfortunately, it is in gold pieces instead of, like, silver, which is much more palatable in these small rural villages, but hopefully they make do. But we're going to go check into the inn first, because we're probably going to want to get a room and maybe find a little bit of information about the sitch. As Kim Possible would say. A large building has a wooden sign out front painted to represent a silver dagger. It has recently been painted and shows other signs of attempted repairs, but this is obviously an old building, and repairs were not expertly done. As you draw nearer to the inn, one of the wooden roof shingles comes loose in the breeze and slides down, falling to the ground in the overgrown grass. Well, that's cinematic, I suppose. The Silver Dagger Inn has 6 rooms for rent upstairs for 1 gold per night. Boy. They think highly of themselves, don't they? But I suppose at the same time, they could probably charge like 4 or 5 gold per night, and we'll pay it. Bastards. Each of which can sleep as many as 3 people if 2 share a bed, and the third sleeps on the floor. On the ground floor, there is a common room where meals are served. The common room serves as a tavern for the rest of the village as well, for on most nights, no guests are staying at the inn at all. Yeah, I can imagine. The rooms are clean, but all of them have ceilings that leak if it rains and the floorboards squeak. The innkeeper of the Silver Dagger is Ralmar Prath, a tall, thin fellow with a shiny bald head. His wife Meralda and his 2 sons Ulin and Jark help him with the various tasks of running the inn and the stable. Alright. Usually, as just a small comment, if you're going to write a module like this, I sort of like it if they give like a 1 or 2 word personality description. I don't think many modules, especially like OSR type modules, do it, but I just think it helps a lot if you're going to run something like this. I know that the DM can come up with anything, and there's like 1,000,000,001 tables out there for just generating personality traits or something like that. I don't usually use those tables, because if I have to come up with a personality, I don't. Usually it's like the same guy that my players meet every time, where he's just like, hey, hello. He's always amicable, unless the module I'm running says something about it. I mean, I don't know why I need to know that he has a shiny bald head and not that he's like, I don't know, nervous, or he's gregarious, or I don't know. Various personality traits. What would I roll on if I wanted to? I did have ages ago. I had some sort of NPC generator document that I used for playing solo. I know the hireling table has a personality thing. We could run it on this, but this is for hirelings. So it's sort of geared towards like the kind of people that would be mercenaries or something. It's not really a generic thing. I don't think Shadow Dark has anything for that. Yeah, I don't think so. Oh, it does have NPC qualities. But it's mostly their appearance, a thing that they do, and a secret they have, rather than just like a general personality. Got a lot of sections for names. I find names generally to be really easy, so I don't know why people have so much trouble with that, but I guess. Let me just look real quick through my supplements. Yeah, I've got loads of these, like, you know, wilderness dressing and dungeon dressing things. GM's miscellany for, like, what if they loot a random body, what it might be on it. I think I talked about that before. Oh, here we go. The Universal NPC emulator is exactly what I was talking about. Okay. So yeah, I mean, you could just have this at the table for any time you need to generate an NPC. This has like everything you'd want. So here's like the big, you know, D100 list. So the innkeeper here is pious. That helps. I mean, there you go. Okay, so he's sort of a pious man. We can see he also has a necklace of some sort of, you know, lawful deity around his neck. Boom, see? That's a personality. Done. Call it a day, you know? And like, imagine if they had just written personality pious. Done. I don't know. It's just me. Maybe some people wouldn't like that, and that would dictate something that they don't want to hear dictated about an NPC, but I don't know. Save me the step, please, I guess. Although the fact that he's wearing chainmail, and I don't think he's wearing all this, but this is kind of interesting. He has 25 hit points. Oh, he's a level 5 fighter. Oh, he's actually very similar to Xander then, based on our pious role. He is a fighter himself that is strongly religious. So he's a retired fighter that has settled down here with his wife and sons. He's a fucking level 5 fighter. This guy seems like he could solo the problem. I don't know why we need to be involved. Okay, so yeah, he's tall and thin, the shiny bald head, but I think we can sort of... You can sort of glimpse, like, there seems to be, like, strong muscles sort of running underneath his flesh, you know? Like, he's probably quite a bit stronger than he looks, I would say, is our impression. But we can see that he's got his holy symbol as well. So probably like a slight sort of a bonus to any kind of charisma rolls or anything with Xander. A bit of a kindred spirit here. He maybe sees a bit of himself at a younger age in Xander. Yeah, his wife and his kids seem to be fairly normal. Although his wife has 6 hit points. Interesting. She might also be a bit of a hardy woman. Alright, so anyways, we head in. And yeah, let's get a... I could do a reaction roll. I suppose that's a decent way to do it. The problem with that is you could easily roll like a 2 or a 3. And this guy just fucking hates us for no reason. So I'd rather do it with just have Xander roll a charisma for when he goes up to talk to this guy with a slight bonus. That way, if he succeeds, it's like, okay, you know, I have sort of a direction to go. This guy takes a liking to him. If he fails, it's not that he dislikes him. It's just he's just another customer coming to town or something like that. Terrible failure. I don't know. It's hard to say exactly. I might ignore it, or yeah, I might lean towards this guy doesn't like Xander for some reason. The problem with that in a pre-written module is it states just sort of a little too much information that isn't actually in the module. Like, at that point, it's like, why does this guy just suddenly dislike me? That he must have something to hide, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't really want to go in that direction. But let's just roll. I'm going to give him a +2 because they're sort of kindred spirits. All right, he got a success. Barely, but he got a success. So, yeah, Ralmar sort of likes the cut of Xander's jib as they enter, and he's not sort of upset or bothered at all by the fact that there's a half-orc walking into his tavern, because, you know, he's a good guy. We're all God's creatures. He's been around the block. He's seen enough pleasant half-orcs. And so, room for the night. I suppose we'll just settle for one room. Like I said, we're kind of best of buds, so we can share a bed without it being an issue. And we're not that wealthy or anything. We only have her supply of 60 gold. So for now, we're just going to rent the room for one night. May come into more than that. And yeah, we're probably going to want food, but maybe not just yet. We might want to poke around the village for a little bit. But while we're sort of checking in here, we will ask Ralmar, because he's personable, about the situation in Grimsgate, and he tells us pretty much word for word this. So the Barons lost a big patrol in the forest. They haven't sent anyone since. Seems like we lost a fur trapper or a farmer every month for a while, and now there aren't enough people to keep things going. That's not good. That means the village is perhaps close to just kind of shuttering and people migrating to probably where we came from, the bigger town. Which, yeah, it is what it is. I'm sure it happens fairly often. The worst alternative, I suppose, is that the place actually gets attacked by some sort of monstrous force and everybody just gets wiped out and dies. Which is why people would migrate, you know, hopefully before that happens, and then that's the end of the town. An old temple is out there somewhere nearby. It's called the Elder Temple because it was before we had a temple here in the village. Something bad happened there a long time ago. Okay. That's all he says. He doesn't really know. He's probably not... Maybe he's a relatively... I guess he says things have been going downhill for years here, so... Yeah, I guess it must not be super common knowledge of what happened there. If we look at the rumor table, a couple of the things do correspond to the Elder Temples, so it's just kind of hearsay. No one really knows. So we're going to go ahead and give one of these rumors from Ralmar 6. So he also mentions that something must be keeping travelers away from Harkin's Ford up to the northeast, because no one has come to the village from that direction in several days. Which would beg the continued question of what is Harkin's Ford and what's in that direction that people come from. Harkin's Ford is a shallow point in the river where it's possible to cross without a bridge or ferry. Okay. So here we have the river through the region. We must have come from the southwest. So I suppose further northeast is like even further into the borderlands or something. There must be some settlement to the northeast. There has to be. I mean, travelers do come from that direction sometime. Fairly often, I guess. He says no one's come in several days, so it must be somewhat common people come from that direction. But that information is not stated. Yeah, I have no idea. I guess it's largely irrelevant, but there's something that there's some sort of problem at the ford preventing people from coming from that direction. That's all we really need to know. Okay. All right, we thank him, and we're gonna go head out. I guess we would also ask him, like, what's you know, what else could we expect to find in the village if we go poke around. So he mentions the merchant, the Emporium, which is across the way here. And then there's also, let's see, a blacksmith. And then various residences and farmhouses. And then there's also the Temple of Tyr, which is run by Rawl, an old cleric. Okay. That's pretty much it. So we're going to head out. And I suppose we do want to go to the merchant, but probably the most prudent option is to go check out the temple and see if the cleric knows anything about the Elder Temple, which is what we came here to sort of figure out. So we go to the Temple of Law. This large building is obviously a Temple of Tyr, but it is in terrible disrepair. Parts of the roof have collapsed into the building, and the garden in front of the temple is choked with weeds. I don't care for that. Xander's not too pleased about that. An old cleric named Rawl is the last remaining priest here, although he has a letter claiming that an acolyte will be sent to him from a larger temple soon. Rawl has been camping out in the semi-ruin ever since the roof started to fall in. He has been trying to figure out how to restore some kind of spirit to the villagers, but so far he's been unsuccessful at fighting off the sense of defeat that has been eating away at the community for years. He is beginning to suspect that supernatural forces are at work, and it crosses his mind that the old stories about the Elder Temple might have something to do with the fact that Grimsgate seems to be dying away. Although Rawl is unable to do any sort of adventuring, he lost an arm several years ago and his lungs are weak, he can be invaluable to the party as long as they are helping the village. He owns several scrolls of clerical spells, some of which are more powerful than you could cast without the help of the scroll. In one case, the scrolls could literally mean the difference between life and death. The scrolls are Cure Disease, Raise Dead ×2, and Remove Curse. Rawl will not allow adventurers to take the scrolls with them, but he will use the spells to restore them if they return battered from an expedition to help the village. Raise Dead he has as scrolls. Otherwise, he just has Cure Light Wounds ×2 and Speak with Animals. Alright. Not bad. Let's get a charisma roll to see how we feel about Xander. Well, this will just be a normal one. Terrible failure. Okay. So how exactly to roleplay that? Again, similar to if we rolled like a poor reaction roll. Yeah, like unfriendly or suspicious or something like that. I suppose our appearance, armed adventurers or something, is just sort of another, rather than taking it as an optimistic thing that we might be able to help him, you sort of restore the spirit of the village and stuff and fight back against something, you know, he just sort of takes it of another indicator of the kind of air of violence and chaos affecting the village. Like, we're really only likely to cause more trouble rather than fix anything. So rather than a personal issue with us or anything, he just sort of, it's him. It's not us, it's him, that he has this sort of defeatist feeling a little bit. Or somewhat of a pessimistic outlook. I mean, he still does want to try to help the village, but it's taking its toll on him as well. So he's not going to be super helpful to us on the outset until we do something of note to kind of prove him wrong. But he'll talk to us just because he has nothing else to go on with. And I guess he probably wears his feelings there on his sleeves. So we sort of get a standoffish nature from him. Meaning that we don't really respect him all too much, and the, So we sort of get the impression that he's given up, even though he hasn't. It doesn't sound like he knows too much about the Elder Temple. It says the old stories might have something to do with the fact that Grimsgate seems to be dying away. So it doesn't sound like he knows much, but we will get another rumor table from him. That's really all we're going to get. We rolled a 1. So, yeah, he's sort of in his sort of defeatist kind of rant, I suppose, talking about the state of the village and everything. He mentions to us the 2 nearby farmers, Albraith and Atara, disappeared from their farmhouse only a couple of days ago. So if we look at the map, it says that W2 is the Elder Temple. We have not talked to anybody that knows where the temple is. That's one of the other rumors. So he's, I guess, never been there. He has no idea where it is. He just knows that it's out there, and he's heard old stories, and that's about it. But he's not going to tell us. I guess he could if we press. All right, let's roll another charisma. We'll ask him to tell us about these old stories. Okay, we got a great success. So gives a glimmer of hope that we're actually interested, and we might investigate it. I mean, he doesn't like our odds of solving anything and fixing the problem, but the fact that we asked is a little promising. So, so he's going to tell us, this. We'll say that he does know where it is. So he's going to tell us, go south downriver from the ford. And then he'll tell one of these 2. He's going to say one of these 2 about the old stories that he's heard. And it says that rumor 4 is technically the truth, but is not the whole story and is actually a bit misleading. So we're going to roll a d2 just to see which one of these 2 he says. Okay, so he says the first one. That's basically the old story is that someone freed a demon in the Elder Temple long, long ago, and it killed all the priests before it disappeared. Or is this is a long ago? This must be this is the old stories that he's heard, right? I don't know. It helps if you're the DM and you actually know what the old stories are. So yeah, this demon named Vuad the Putrefactor. The ashes were in a magically sealed jar and left in the priest's protection. He kept it safe for centuries until the unforeseen day when the acolyte Arumville became curious and he touched it. Yes, that was 200 years ago. Okay, so this is the old story. That someone freed a demon in the Elder Temple, killed all the priests before it disappeared. Okay. But he doesn't know... I mean, no one uses the Elder Temple now. No one uses that since they built a temple in the village here. But something bad happened at that Elder Temple a long time ago. So no one's been in there and really used it or anything for ages. Alright. Alright, well, we thank him. We say that we are going to investigate those farmers. But we're also going to investigate the Elder Temple, too. So don't you worry, my friend. We're here to help. Okay. Is on the map, the wilderness... Okay, so where are these 2 farmers? Albraith. Where's Albraith? Okay. Interesting. It's a bit of an odd way of running the module, because I think it's not unlikely for the players to ask where the farmhouse is for Albraith and Atara, so that they can investigate like the crime scene. But as far as I can see, it's not anywhere. Those farmhouses don't exist. And it's not like it's not one of the abandoned ones. You know, it's specifically, he says that they disappeared from their farmhouse. So the farmhouse is still normal. I guess you could pick, I mean, all the houses are accounted for. The map's very clear. Number 9 is just abandoned farmhouses. So it's up to the DM to fill in that, which, again, like I say, I don't usually like when they do that. It's not too much trouble, though. I guess it would be a farmhouse, like, I don't know, maybe half a mile from the village or something like that. Yeah. The actual farmers themselves, of course, are held prisoner somewhere in the big dungeon, in the Elder Temple or something. But yeah, like I said, I think as soon as players hear that rumor, many of them will want to go to the farmhouse. They probably should have included that just as, like, even as just a line somewhere in this section. Maybe it is, but that name only comes up as, you know, one at a time. All right, so we leave. And there's just various other farmhouses then, and the stable. There's the blacksmith, but I don't think we really need anything made. Not that we want to invest the time for it to be made. So I guess we're going to stop into the merchant, because we kind of have clues. Like, we kind of have a direction at the very least. We know how to find the Elder Temple, and we also know there's trouble at the ford. We're mostly here for the Elder Temple, so I don't know if we'd really go out of our way first to go investigate the ford. The Elder Temple's kind of our destination, but we'll stop by the merchant. The well-tended stone building with a roof of wooden shingles. A sign over the door reads, "The Hilltop Emporium." The Emporium is a combination store and trading post and the headquarters of Pantro Panga's tiny mercantile empire. Pantro is an extremely flamboyant and somewhat manic person with big dreams of becoming a great merchant owning caravans and fleets of ships. Unfortunately, he is in what might be the worst possible location to succeed in such a plan. He owns a mule in the stables, the small amount of merchandise in his store, and not much else. The characters can buy any equipment from the standard equipment list here, but quantities are limited. Pantro has only one suit of plate mail, for example. Only one? That's a lot, man. He buys anything valuable the characters bring to him with the hopes of either selling it here or shipping it by caravan to a town or even a city. At some point, Pantro could easily become a source of adventures, especially if he decides that he's running out of cash and needs to take all these things that he's been buying from the characters into a town for sale. At that point, he might hire the characters to guard him and the caravan. He rents the other mules in the village stable for the journey. He expects to join up with a larger caravan within a day or so, but if the rendezvous fails due to a delay somewhere, he would likely choose to go on alone if he has guards. Guarding a caravan through the wilderness and past the threat of bandits and monsters can make for an excellent adventure. Alright. Now, this is very much a Class 6 market. Like, it is the fucking definition of a Class 6 market. A village of 1,250 inhabitants or less is Class 6. Plate mail, plate armor costs 60 gold. Meaning that normally in a Class 6, they would have 10% chance. Since they specifically mentioned plate armor in the module, we're making a special exception and we're ignoring the roll for that one. So he does have one set of plate armor. Anything else, though, I'm following the Class 6 list. It also says that he'll buy anything valuable that they bring to him, which is a little bit also questionable. Because this table is the same thing for if you're selling. So if you come here and want to sell a bracelet worth 100 gold pieces, he has a 10% chance that he'll buy it. So we could also make a special argument for selling stuff to him, which suggests that he does have a fair amount of cash on hand. But it sort of depends on the type of treasure that we'll actually find. But I already see here an ivory drinking horn worth 100 gold pieces and a jewel dagger worth 100 gold pieces. If he has enough gold on hand to buy all that stuff, then he's doing fairly well. Makes you wonder why he's out here in Grimsgate. But again, most modules are not going to be written with like axe logic and specificity in mind. And most players, unless, you know, they're used to that type of game, are not going to be questioning any of this shit. I do, because I'm used to that shit. So if I were playing this, I'd be like, hold on, Poncho can just he can just buy all this shit off of us. He must be loaded. You know, for a merchant in this sort of settlement, he must for some reason have lots of cash. Let's murder him. I mean, really, I'd have to tally up the entire gold value of all treasure in the thing to decide, because he has to be able to afford to buy it all according to the module. And so he has to have that amount of cash on hand. I mean, the necklace of blood rubies worth 500 gold. He's got at least 1,000 based on what I've seen already. We haven't gotten to like the big finale. Okay, I see a couple +1 magic weapons. We wanted to get really anal about that, but usually we don't allow selling of magic weapons outside of some special circumstances. Okay. So it doesn't look like there's that much just treasure pieces to sell. Hard to say. Yeah, that necklace of blood rubies is definitely one of the biggest things. All right, anyways, that has nothing to do with anything. Right. So he's very flamboyant. I'm not going to roleplay that or anything. But he's certainly happy to see adventurers in town, because adventurers usually mean money in some way, shape, or form. We either buy stuff or we'll sell him stuff. So yeah, I think he's quite happy to see us. And we do want to buy some stuff. Yeah, I think for the most part, quantities. Again, yeah, I guess we're following this chart. Maybe we would say that he doesn't have 15 of every 1 gold piece or less item. Maybe as a max of like 3 or 4 of stuff. But yeah, it kind of depends. What do we want to buy? Well, we want the fucking Crawler's Kit Special, you know, from Shadow Dark. Like, basically all the classics. We don't have almost anything, so we got to kind of start from scratch. So the crawling kit comes with flint and steel, torches, iron spikes, grappling hook, rope. That's pretty much what I want. So, do we want any weapons or armor? Yes, I do want leather armor. Specifically, I wanted that. So that's 20 gold, which, yes, we do have to roll on the table for that. Like I said, the only argument I can make is that he has 1 suit of plate armor. Not necessarily has any leather armor. He does have padded armor. For sure, he has one of those, because that's 10 gold pieces. So that's exactly one. So we're going to roll the 10% to see if he has a suit of leather armor. Damn. No, I always count it as a 1, so I can't take that. I only accept it on a 1. So no. So we're going to buy padded armor just so we have something. Alright, so she has 11 AC instead of 10. Not much. Almost not even worth the money, because we probably are going to pick up something off a corpse that's better, but fine. He gets our money. He could actually upcharge, to be honest. Yeah, I usually don't do stuff like that unless a module specifically says that, you know, he'll sell all the standard stuff, but it's priced double and blah, blah, blah. Because I don't think Axe mentions that at any point as being like, well, it might in the mercantile section. I'm not going to bog down the video with that. Yeah, I usually don't do stuff like that. Prices are prices, and that's it. Okay, so we bought that. Again, I don't think she needs it. She could buy, like, a sword. Yeah, what can we get for 10 gold or less for melee weapons? Most things. Yeah, most things. So she could buy a sword, which would be a D6, or a short sword for 7. A D6 is better than a D4. You'll never argue otherwise. Granted, she is fairly bookish. So a staff sort of fits her character. But honestly, I do think she is going to get into a little bit of melee just to help out most of the time. So yeah, we'll buy a sword. That's another 10. Goes quick when you don't have much. Yeah, it goes quick. So this is 1d6 or 1d8. For her, it's going to be 1d6. Yeah. And that's... 1d10 plus 2. This away in her pack. Okay. Good. Next, yeah, all the usual stuff. We're done with equipment, weapons and armor. So, again, I like the climbers, the crawling kit because it kind of sums up everything. We want a crowbar. Never fails. So let's buy a crowbar. That's 1 gold. We want... He's not going to have a grappling hook. Like, insanely low odds he has a grappling hook. Iron spikes, of course. Done. That's going to be another gold. Oil. Yeah, military oil he probably won't have. Rope. Yes. We each want rope. Rope. 50 feet. And that's going to go over to her as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 gold. And torches and tinderbox. She'll carry the torches. That's 6 torches. Yeah, that doesn't need to be put. You're right. And then she'll also have the tinderbox. Yeah, it's pretty good. A whistle's not a bad thing to have, I suppose. It really shouldn't take up a slot at all. So I'm just going to put whistle 0 slots. Okay, that should be good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. Yeah. 5, 6 gold total. We'll tip them a little bit. All right, I think that's good. I think I'm mostly happy with that. All right, and I would normally have Zazura pick up some fresh food, like some bread and cheese and meat and stuff, because she wants to cook if they're out in the wilderness. But I think we're planning on just checking out this temple and then coming back later in the evening. That's the, that's the real optimistic thought line. Hopefully that's what happens. But we're not planning on staying out there tonight or anything. We're going to come back. Because I don't think it's too far. You didn't really specify. 1 square is a half mile, though. So if we go to the ford and then go all the way south, you're talking about 1, 2, 3 miles to the ford. And then following the ford is like 1, 2, 3, 4 miles south, maybe? So you're talking about a 7-mile trip. That's about half the day. Yeah, okay. Well, depending on how long we spend at that place, and if we get lost or not, I guess that is in the middle of the forest. Yeah, it's not... we might have to camp out there in the forest. Okay, she's going to pick up some foodstuffs. This will just take up 1 slot. I'm just going to call it foodstuffs. I'm not going to be too anal about it. And this is going to be... yeah, like I said, just... some bread. I mean, this is 4 pounds of white bread for 1 silver. So, like, a gold is going to buy you a lot of food. Although I think... generally, like, I think it said you have to eat quite a bit of food. Like... I don't remember what it was. Like 2 pounds of food. Yeah, that's a ration. Is 2 pounds of food. So I suppose it's not that much then. She has to carry then for each of them for a meal 4 pounds of food. So I guess that is 4 pounds of bread. Yeah, I guess it will take up like a slot. Man, not really. 2 pounds each. That's... 1 slot is about 10 pounds, so it's 4/10, 2/5 of a slot. Yeah, alright. I don't think it's going to cost a gold based on these prices. So we'll just give him 5 silver and then we'll call it a day. But yes, I want to roleplay a little bit more, and I'm going in on her being a cook, so there we have it. All right. I also have, in the past, I believe, insisted that if people are going to camp out in the wilderness, they have to have bedrolls, and if they don't have a bedroll, they don't get any hit points for the evening. So I didn't really enforce that in our last campaign, but I realize now I have enforced that when I've DM'd. So probably I should. We could grab a small tent though, which I think is going to serve a similar purpose. Small tent fits 2. Yep, small tent sleeps 2. And it takes up 1 slot. Yeah, alright, we'll do that. Xander will carry the tent. Oh wait, he might not have a tent. I just realized. That's way too much. Small tent is 3 gold. 1 out of 10? Nope. Okay, he does not have a small tent. So then that leaves it over to a bedroll, which is not listed here. There's a blanket, but no bedroll. So I don't know what price I charged my players when they bought them. Probably just a gold. That's always the gold standard price. Literally. Well, it does say a character resting under a blanket is considered to have protection from frigid weather. So that's probably what I just did, but that's 2 gold. I think that's a little outrageous. I can't really consult Shadow Dark because that's bedroll. 1d3 silver. Yeah, it also sort of leans towards 2 gold. Shadow Dark's prices are always ridiculous. They don't even have bedrolls on their list. My god, this is the most pathetic gear list in the history of gear lists. Alright, I charge a gold, almost certainly, so that's what we're charging. And that ensures that he has a couple. Bedroll, which means she also has to have one. Picking up a tent in the future would save some slots. And that's another 2 gold. Alright, then fine, we'll set out. We're not happy about not spending the night because we already rented a room. But there's nothing for it, and that's how long it takes. I suppose then, since we rented the room for tonight, we'll go check out the ford instead. Alright, I think that's reasonable, because it'll take, let's see, 1 mile, 2 mile, 3.5 miles to get to the ford. So that's about a quarter of our day, so it's about 2 hours. It's about a 2-hour hike to the ford. So we'll be back for dinner. Do we have wandering monsters? No. We don't. There are no wandering monsters in the area. It does have a wandering monster table for the Elder Temple, but not for the wilderness. It also does not say that to just use your own table. So I guess I won't. This isn't that dangerous of a region, I suppose. It's just the Elder Temple that's mostly dangerous. Even though there does seem to be dangers around. I could use a generic one if we really wanted to. But for a 2-hour hike, it's reasonable not to require one. Maybe on the way back. But alright, it's a pleasant enough day. We make it to the ford. The shallow point in the river is possible to cross without a bridge or ferry. An ogre recently took up residence near the ford after finding that it's a good place to attack small groups of travelers. The ogre is careful not to attack groups of more than 3 people, but anyone coming to the ford and looking around finds traces of the ogre's presence. A skull here and there, a mortar and pestle where the ogre grinds bones, and even its pile of sleeping furs if they range far enough around the area. If the party stays long enough, the ogre loses its patience and comes out from its hiding place to attack these interlopers. If the party is simply approaching the ford before heading south, following directions to the Elder Temple, they are not likely to be stopped by the ogre. Okay, so that implies... I like that it just assumes you're going to have more than 3 people, which is a safe assumption in an OSR game. But that implies that the ogre is watching and will attack if there is less than 3 people. And it doesn't have anything to do with losing its patience. It's going to try to attack us. I don't think... Okay, well, let's look at ogres in the Monster Manual, because I don't think we've looked at these yet. There he is. Big boy. 4 hit dice, 14 armor class. He's not super fast, but they're also not super stealthy, so I'm not quite sure how he manages to... I guess through surprise, really. Just, like, shock and awe of an ogre rushing out. So it's just a ford. I mean, it's just sort of a... It seems like kind of an open area. Looking at the map, it's not... Oh, I guess it is sort of in the forest. Alright, it's not super open then. And yeah, I guess, yeah, nearby there's some sleeping furs, and he just kind of roams around the area. He's got a mortar and pestle. So, I think then... I don't think we'll ever actually be surprised. We're not peasants. So, you know, it's not like an automatic sort of morale check if we see an ogre. We're a little bit better disciplined than that. Not much, but a little bit. So he can't really do a shock and awe sort of play on us to just bum rush us. So honestly, I think he just sort of comes out and charges towards us and we go into initiative. I don't think it's really that complicated. And again, we don't know what's happening at the ford, so we're just kind of approaching and looking around and seeing what we see. And maybe we see like a skull and like a mortar and pestle a little bit, but he's going to come out pretty quickly and charge at us. So yeah, let's do it. Yeah, it's not a great first encounter against a fucking ogre, but major exploits might come into play here if we can land a hit. Zura rolls initiative. She rolls a 1. Do we want to drop down some slickness? That would probably be the most prudent play we could possibly do. Yes. He's very likely to fail that. I don't think an ogre's dex is altogether impressive. If we go to here, puts their dex at 8. He has 4 hit dice, so his luck is going to be 7 minus 1 from 8 dex, so 6 or lower he has to get to avoid falling. Yeah, I mean, I would say maybe an actual intelligent creature would get a check to notice it, but these guys are 6 intelligence. They are of low intelligence and easy to anger. He's charging at us. He's not going to really notice this. I think that's our best bet. So she's going to sort of step forward and, incant her magic spell and cast Slickness. She does get +1 for arcane lore, which was the difference between success and failure. Thank you very much. All right, so she puts down the Slickness and steps back. Now that means it's Xander's turn, and he doesn't really... Oh yeah, he can throw his Francisca. Yes, he will do that. So he's going to launch that. He doesn't really have any bonuses to anything. So he just chucks it, and it misses fairly wildly. So, yeah, these guys are pretty tricky. He gets +3 on his damage rolls. And when smashing with piercing or slashing weapons, they deliver vicious blows that deal an additional 2 points per smash. When armed with bludgeoning weapons, ogres can topple man-sized or smaller creatures with every attack. You have to make a paralysis saving throw, and if you fail, you're knocked prone. We'll say that he has a giant club, because that's always how I picture ogres. But, I mean, the image obviously is a big axe. But yeah, I like him having a big club. So yeah, that's pretty vicious. A great club. Yeah, like a Morning Star is going to do 1d10 +3 in his hands. That's a lot for Xander. But we're hoping that we can get him on the ground, stab him, and hopefully blind him. That's going to be the major exploit we kind of fish for. Because then it gets a lot trickier for him to actually kill us. I don't really want to waste her second spell on Desiccate, even though it would be nice to get that 1d12. But we'll see how it goes. Alright, it's the ogre's turn then. He charges forward. He has to make his luck roll, which, as I said, if he rolls 7 or above, he's on the ground, and that's his turn. He does roll a 12, so he is on. He slips like a banana peel all over that grease. Falls right on his ass. Yep, immediately falls prone, and that's his turn. Now, if we fail our initiative here, we sort of... He'll have to roll again, and he might fall right back down, and that's his turn. And that's why it's such a powerful spell. And if you've played, like, Wrath of the Righteous, you know that. Like, so many times in that game, I have had enemies spend an entire battle just on their back in the middle of the grease pool. Exactly like that. So, all right, we're going to roll initiative. We failed. I kind of figured. We don't have great odds. So he's going to immediately roar and try to get back up. He's going to roll again. 7 or higher. He goes back down. He crit succeeded, so he is up. Thankfully, we are sort of like right next to him. We were waiting right by the grease so that he charged into it. So that means he's not really going to move off of the grease because he's still pretty dumb. So there's still a possibility, but he is going to swing at Xander, and this is where things could really hurt. He gets +4 to the roll. D20 +4. All right, he missed wildly. He's a little enraged now, so he's not thinking clearly. Suzura's initiative. We actually want to fail this so that he probably goes down again, and then we can capitalize on it. I don't think we can purposefully fail initiative, though. Yeah, we succeeded. We'll work with it, but it's not ideal. All right, Xander is going to try to slash this guy. So we are going to be... Yeah, we've got two-handed. Yeah, there's nothing for it. We have to roll like an 11 or better. Crit! That's exactly what we needed. Holy shit. Okay, well, we don't need to roll advantage with damage. We roll 10 damage. So that's pretty significant. He has 19 hit points, so he's down to 9 now. We've delivered quite a devastating blow. Possibly I don't have to spend a major exploit, so we're going to go for a minor exploit, and I could try to trip him. Dex versus Dex, we stand really good odds. But he's probably going to trip himself, so I think I'd rather throw Pocket Sand, which is also going to be Dex versus Dex. We're going to try to throw some dirt in his eyes to blind him. So our Dex roll is going to be success by 2. His Dex roll is a crit. So he's waving his big club, his hand, and he blocks all the dust. I'm glad we spent that one on that, and hopefully he fails his the grease. Suzura is also going to very hesitantly step forward to try to gut him with the longsword. And right now she can use it two-handed, so I'm just gonna roll manually, and we'll roll a d8 if she hits. She has just d20 +1. Yeah, she misses. So she's a little too timid for this. I mean, this is a hell of a first fight. Now the ogre is gonna go, so it has to reroll its luck dex. It did succeed again, remarkably. So now he's really gonna try to smash Xander. D20 +4. He missed again. Wow. These rolls are very interesting. New initiative. We go back to Xander. Great success. All right, maybe Xander can finish him. I don't know. I'm optimistic with that crit we rolled. Normal roll. That is a hit. And he gets to roll advantage with damage as long as he's two-handed. So 1d8 +2. 7 damage. That brings him down to 2 hit points. Yep. And maybe Suzura can poke him and finish him. D20 +1. Yes. Natural 19. D8 damage. Ooh, only 1. That is not quite enough, right? We rolled 7. He has 2 health, so he has 1 hit point left. But she did roll a natural 19. Which is going to be 1d10 +2 on the table. 4. Probably not enough to do anything. Damaged gear. I hate that. That should not be on the table. That only really applies... I get it can apply to other human targets, but that never is going to apply to a monster. Honestly, I should just drop it down to impaled then. I think that's fair. I mean, it's a step down theoretically. I don't know, I hate that. I really wish these tables were rewritten or something. Yeah. Fuck it. I'm gonna... Actually, I think... Well, no, the alternative for longsword, I think, is a disarm, which is pretty miraculous, to be honest, for her to disarm his giant great club. But fuck it, I'm just saying she does 1 extra damage and kills it. She spears it through the stomach and it drops dead. Excellent. Well, that's pretty remarkable, because we didn't succeed on any exploits, and the grease honestly did practically nothing. It did prevent 1 attack roll. Its first charge towards us, the attack roll there. So I suppose, and that attack roll could have done a number on us. I don't think I can count that as significant combat, to be honest. We didn't take any hits. Nothing really happened. I did spend a spell, but it doesn't meet my minimum requirements, so... Remarkably, a battle with an ogre at level 1 with 2 characters was not a significant combat. Jesus. Alright. Well, that's that. We do get a fairly nice amount of XP, I imagine. 140. We are going to keep track of XP. 140 from killing him. And then, of course, we're going to search the area and look around to see if he's been attacking travelers, so we imagine he's got some things stored away. Or they're in the area somewhere. He himself has... I guess it's all on his person. He's got a leather bag containing 2 human skulls, a gallon of beer, a haunch of venison, a jeweled dagger worth 100 gold pieces, an ivory drinking horn worth 100 gold pieces, and 250 gold. Exactly 250 gold. What are the odds of that? 100, 250. Well, we are going to take this shit. Yeah, we're actually full up on a lot of slots here, to be honest. The dagger and the horn will take up 1 slot. Yeah, and it's 100 gold pieces, 100 gold pieces. And then Suzura will handle their money, of course, so she takes the 250. Well, that puts us in a much better position. Xander's probably going to end up buying that plate armor. And that's it. We apparently have solved the problem of Harkin's Ford. So, hooray for us. Back home in time for dinner. So we march back to Grimsgate. Let's roll a random encounter, just for the sake of rolling a random encounter. Should we roll on a Shadow Dark table? We rarely do. Let's just say a forest. Probably? I guess I could do a grassland, but we'll roll for the forest. No, I suppose we're really not in the forest, though, here. Well, we are a little bit in the forest. Okay, we'll count it as forest. And we'll roll a D100 on this forest table. 46. 1d4 rusty bear traps spring out from beneath the leaf litter. Rusty bear traps spring out from beneath the leaf litter. That doesn't make any sense. We're on the trail. There wouldn't be any bear traps, and I don't know how it would possibly happen. I'm going to reroll that. 13. An ancient rotted tree snaps and falls towards the PCs. Okay, well, that's a little bit clearer. Alright, well, this is basically just a luck tax, really. This is just going to be luck dex to see if we dodge out of the way. Otherwise, it's going to hurt. Great success from Suzura. success from Xander. All right, we're both, light on our feet. We're happy, we're kind of bouncing around from our victory against that ogre. And so we're alert. It's a luck tax. That's it. Isn't that fun? All right. We make it back home. We head over to the inn, and they whip us up a meal. We'll throw down a gold because we're in a good mood. And I think that's it. Then we'll probably retire for the evening. And yeah, and that's where we'll pick it up next time. All right. Well, so far, yeah, I'm enjoying myself. This is good. This is good stuff. 2 characters is kind of a nice amount, like you can actually get a little bit more into the characters, get a little bit into the personality. So far, I'm liking this module. I don't know, there's just something pleasant about it. I like the atmosphere. An ogre, right at the start is a bit hefty, no doubt, but it's one creature, and assuming you have relatively competent players, it's kind of just an open encounter. It's not gonna ambush you or anything like that. And yeah, so we'll see how it goes once we get into the actual dungeon and everything, because that's the bulk of the module here. As you can see, it's like a 43 room dungeon. So that's going to be the majority of next time's video. We'll see how it goes from there. It might get really shitty and difficult or whatever, or lame, but we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I assume after we finish that, we'll be level 2, which is the intention here. Lovely, lovely stuff. Yeah, good so far. I like our characters, even though they're not exceptional. I mean, our last party was pretty fucking good. What? Hey, I mean, Xander did a number on that ogre. Alright, my name is Mang. This has been Solo Roll Manging. I'll see you fine folks in the next part.